Hello everybody and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about the concept of minimalization. And I hope I said that right. I'll try not to say it too often. But this is a situation where the facts of the case, and it can apply to a Baker Act case, a Marchman Act case, a guardianship case, where there's a set of facts and circumstances that are glaring and hitting the family in the face, and they're simply not willing to accept what is going on with the situation and with their loved one. It's almost as if they are closing their eyes and hoping that they'll wake up and it'll all have been a dream. And I wish I could tell you that was the case, but unfortunately, that is not. That's just not how it works. And I'm going to give an example. Let me apply this to a Baker Act case that recently we talked to a family about. And family called us. Their son, early 20s, had taken, I think it was 30 or 40 over-the-counter pills. And I think when that didn't work, and this was obviously a suicide attempt, when that didn't work, he then took a knife to one of his wrists and tried to slit his wrists. Fortunately, he failed miserably and didn't really do that much damage. But long story short is after he left a suicide note and a friend found it, they called 911. He was taken to the hospital. And when the family called us, he was then, pending transfer to a Baker Act receiving facility because this particular hospital didn't have a behavioral health unit. And, I spoke to the parents and they said, well, we're not that worried because, he can only be held 72 hours. And I said, well, who told you that? Well, I looked online. That's the max. I said, no, that's not the max. That's the minimum. That's the minimum. And I said, and by the way, that 72-hour clock hasn't even started to tick yet. Now, he's been in a hospital for 2 days. I said, the clock's not ticking yet, and it's not going to start ticking until they transfer him somewhere. Well, I think he's okay. What do you mean he's okay? He took 30 or 40 pills. He tried to slit his wrists. He left a suicide note. He's refusing to eat or drink, by the way. And you think he's okay? I said, first of all, I don't think he's okay. And second of all, I think that once he gets to the facility, the Baker Act facility, I think they're going to try and keep him. He's got health insurance. This is how they make money. And this is a wonderful, wonderful case for the facility. If I was the prosecutor from the state attorney's office prosecuting this case, I'd be licking my chops. This is like a Baker Act case put on a silver tray with an ice bowl wrapped around it. It's perfect. It's a beautiful, beautiful Baker Act from the state's facility. And I said to the dad, we're going to need to take action. We got to find somewhere to transfer him to. I said, otherwise, he's going to get stuck there, potentially up to 6 months. And he said, well, I think we're going to wait and see what happens. So here's a classic example. I have another case that I'm working on, again, a Baker Act, where somebody was Baker Acted, an adult male. They were taken to the hospital for a medical reason. And it appears they made some type of statement saying they didn't want to live like this anymore, and they got Baker Acted. And I said to the family, I said, you got to fight to get that person out. They don't meet criteria. And they're like, no, he's getting great care. They're going to take care of him, A week has gone by, and the facility has filed to keep this person. And I said to the family, I honestly think that they're going to get stuck. I mean, look, I've got a great team. I've been, handling cases for 30 plus years. So is my wife, and my 2 associates are really well, schooled and skilled in these matters. But the deck is severely stacked against us. I said the time to take action was at the very beginning when he clearly didn't meet criteria, and this was just a shakedown for the insurance money. Well, guess what's happened in the last week? He's been given medications that intentionally destabilized him. He's getting worse, and now the facility's like, well, we need to keep him. Can't possibly let him go like this. And you know what? They might be right. I think that the judge is probably going to order him detained. And so, look, when my late father used to say to me, when it comes to making important family decisions, you take advice and then you decide what's right for your family. But when the facts are staring you in the face, okay, and somebody who is objective and skilled in these matters is telling you, listen, based on the 500 or so cases that we have handled, it looks to me like your loved one is going to get stuck. If you don't want to take my advice, that's fine. But as you know, and I've said this in multiple other videos, I'm not going to sit here and, frankly, to be perfectly blunt, BS you and tell you it's all going to be all right when the facts and circumstances tell me otherwise. And they're telling you otherwise. And the hospital is telling you, we're not letting this person go. I mean, if they tell you that, you should believe them. They're not, I mean, they're not your friends. They're not your friends. They want to try and keep your loved one, especially if there's health insurance and they can make money. And so I wanted to share that with you. And look, if you've got a loved one who has a long history of substance use and mental health disorders, and you've tried everything other than dragging them into court and getting them into treatment and keeping them there long enough, because I get calls from people who say, well, I filed the Marchman Act, I filed the guardianship, it didn't work. Well, really, why didn't it work? Well, they left treatment. Did you enforce it? Did you go back to court? No, I didn't. How long did they stay for? Well, they did 30 days. Well, you can't fix 5 or 10 years of sickness in 30 days. It doesn't happen. This is a year-long program with us. And I'm not saying you got to hire us for a year, but you got to work the program for a year. And so, look, I try to give as much information as I can for free. I want you to have this information so you can decide, what's right for your family. I have a team here that wants to help you. You can have a free consult with either Brittany or Rachel, who run our intake department. And if you need to schedule, a legal strategy session with one of the lawyers, yeah, no problem. We'll make it happen. But when the facts are staring you in the face and you continue to deny them, the situation, just like any other situation where there's disease involved, is going to get worse. That's just the way it works. Anyway, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for your time. I would love a thumbs up. And if you would subscribe to the channel, even better. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.